Hello, and welcome to ShePack Unleashed. I'm one of your hosts, Tania.
I'm Nichole. Welcome to your weekly dose of candid discussion and the pursuit of finding your tribe in this journey of motherhood, womanhood, and sisterhood.
I'm Ashley. Join us as we leave no stone unturned. In each episode, we have heart-to-heart conversations that aim to challenge and empower one another.
I'm Jenny. No more waiting. ShePack Unleashed begins now.
Yeah, we're fine.
We don't die for this fucking episode.
In this episode, what the bleep? Adult words and little ears.
I literally can't listen to you say what the bleep. What the bleep? Makes me laugh so hard.
Bleep. So, warning.
Okay, she's going to warn you before I start.
I don't know exactly how to warn, but we're going to be talking about adult words. And if that is triggering to you or offensive, or you have ears around that don't want to hear them,
Or that you don't want them to hear them.
stop now.
Yep.
Abort. And
Abort!
Abort this fucking episode.
Okay, for real, though, we wanted to talk about the reality of adult words, right? And there's a whole connotation. You can call it curse words, swear words, adult words, bad words. Like, there's all different ways you can reference it. But there is a certain nomenclature in our vocabulary that people associate with okay for adults to say, maybe not okay for kids to say. And I think that we have a varied perspective on what is appropriate or not appropriate for our kids to either hear and or to say. And we thought it would be a really fun discussion. So,
And our kids are of like that starting age to like hear them, ask about them.
we're there.
Want to know the
Oh,
words.
yeah.
We're there. Yeah. So
Saying
mine
them.
is 9 going on 10. The youngest just turned 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, they turned
so that's
5.
our age range here with our kiddos. And at least for me personally, right, for my husband and I, we both have potty mouths, right? Like, we both use curse
Same,
words
girl.
often. And we made the conscious choice to not use those words in front of our kid.
Not same.
Not fair. That was our choice, right?
Yeah.
And so we would still curse when we're out with our friends and all those kind of things. But when we were around our kids or kid groups or at birthday parties, right? Like, we got that censor on. You put that work filter on also at work, right? We would censor ourselves, which that's a whole other part of this conversation that I'm excited to have. But it was, in our minds, that was the threshold, right? Like, when you're with your friend groups, when you're out just on your own time, you use whatever words bring your heart joy. But it's interesting. For me, there are certain scenarios where I would not use adult words, right? Like, if I go to church, I wouldn't use those. If I am in a work environment, I wouldn't use those. If I'm around kids, I wouldn't use those words. But I think we have different opinions in here, and I'm excited to hear about them.
Well, I think it's an interesting perspective how you say like you put on a different persona for these different places.
Not different persona, different
or filters,
different language.
Not just that, but like the way you speak or how the word you're using is different, right? Like,
Yeah,
you
to me, that feels like a persona.
Yeah, it feels like a persona to me also. Like you're saying,
And it may not to you, and that's fine. But that's what
don't
I'm getting. Like, I
agree.
hear it.
I don't think it's a whole different persona. Now, I will say 10 years ago when I was at RTI International, I do feel like I had a slightly different persona as my work person
Mask.
versus who I was at home. Who I am now is pretty much who I am, right? But the words that I choose to use around certain people and in certain environments still change because of in my mind, it is a certain level of respect that I have for the people around me because I don't know what other people around me are comfortable with.
Agreed.
It's not just about what I want to do. And this is a deeper issue in a conversation because it relates to other things that are happening in our world of what makes other people uncomfortable around you that you're choosing to use or engage in. And do you care? Do you not care?
Wait,
So
so
you change your behavior or not?
to you, does it kind of become a consent thing where like
Sometimes.
like your freedom to speak stops where the next person's ears start?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I can still express myself without saying fuck. Like, I can still express my intention without using certain words that might be triggering to others in certain scenarios.
Gotcha.
it's interesting because in my brain, I think about it as like, as women, we are so conditioned to make everybody else feel comfortable. around us.
For me, that's not the driving force.
I
That is
disagree.
true.
I think
No.
there's definite internalization.
If that's
of
for
that.
you, fine.
For all of us, for every woman out there, I think there's internalization
Conscious
of that,
or
no matter
unconscious.
what, and conscious or no conscious, that we are ingrained from a very small age to present a certain way, to act a certain way, to make sure other people are comfortable around you, right? And to make other people feel comfortable, right? Whether it's words, whether it's people pleasing, I feel like that is ingrained in women in society, whether you acknowledge it or really know it or not.
My husband follows the same mentality that I do around this issue.
Yeah, I totally hear you. But as a woman, it is more ingrained in you to do that.
I disagree, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
I agree, but I don't think about language in this example.
I
that's
think
the
in terms
guiding
of cursing,
principle.
I don't think that's an issue. I do think that is a bigger issue. But for this
Oh, interesting.
conversation,
Because for me, like cursing is like taking up space. It,
Right.
like it pokes that. Am I taking up space? Am I being freely myself?
And why is the word I say making you uncomfortable?
Language has power, and in different cultures
can,
and different
yeah.
countries, it has meaning. And if you don't know that in the culture you're around, like, that is ignorant. The whole point of language is to communicate with others.
I hear you, but who gives that word more power than any other word? Why is shit
The
more
society that we
powerful
live in.
than stupid? Right?
Yeah, I mean it's a cultural thing for sure.
But
Some of that cultural piece, I'm with you. I see it as a gender difference where it's more acceptable for men. I don't know why I perceive it this way, but I just
because you see
like,
it, you
felt sense.
see it in the way like there's locker talk and all this other stuff, and that's
Yeah,
natural and normal.
yeah, it's
but
more
you
of that.
wouldn't see a bunch of like it's not normalized that a bunch of women get together and swear.
yeah.
it has been for 10 years with us.
But like,
Sure,
you don't,
but
it's
we're
not
I think we're different.
presented in society that way. You don't see movies, stories, shows.
When
that
I've seen
way.
it in media like that, it's been like a what's the
Taboo
word for it?
thing.
Like taboo, but it's like a particular point in like a storyline. Like she got hysterical and used a 4-letter word.
Right.
Or
Oh,
something.
I don't know what movies you guys have been watching for the last 20 years, but there's plenty of women
Plenty of
swearing
cursors.
in the movies and TV shows I watch.
They are, and again, maybe it's just a cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in a slightly different, less American culture too, but it's just not something that like women do. It's not how it's taught.
Quick time out, though, if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a quick show of hands. When you grew up, did your parents curse in your house?
No.
Yes.
No, like hard no, yes,
Hard
like
no.
hard yes, in any language.
I don't remember. I don't remember hearing it in English. I remember hearing it a couple times in Farsi and being like, "Ooh, I know that's a bad word."
Yep.
Was it only the men in your life who would curse and not the women? Is that like partly where this construct came from, where it's acceptable for men and not for women?
I don't know if it's acceptable for men in my like
I think in public
upbringing.
you would hear more men
Yeah.
than women.
I feel like that's a gross overgeneralization.
I agree.
Yeah, it might.
is a
It
general
might be.
organization.
That can be your opinion, but
Yeah.
don't push it on others.
I'm just
That's
saying that
fair.
is the
That's your experience.
yes. I think it is a.
She doesn't like that.
I mean, I'm just saying. I think it is also culturally ingrained.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint, but I have this like
There's
felt
definitely
sense
culture in
that
it,
the expectations
language,
for women are different.
Okay.
No, I came from a household where my parents also did not curse in front of us. Maybe they did in their private life. I don't know. And now, like, as a grown adult, like, I will curse in front of my parents, but there's also a part of me that's like, oh, I just said that word. Well, okay, yeah, I am 41 years old.
I was saying,
Say that. One-year-old too, of words have power.
Yeah.
And the words that you use will change the way other people perceive you, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
If you are in school and you are choosing to exercise that freedom and use these words that you are starting to hear and starting to learn, it will change the way other students look at you. It will change the way teachers look at you. And that's just a part of the society that we live in, right? And so what I am trying to now teach him is there are what I consider adult words. And we try to get away from this idea of bad and good words.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
I don't like the language. To them. There are some families that are like, sky's the limit. Say whatever you want to say, right? And that's okay. And in some families, it's like hard no, absolute lockdown. Absolutely not. And so we're in this like gray zone area where I'm trying to piece out and talk to him about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate and why. And I'm having to define for myself, why are these words appropriate or not appropriate? And it kind of boiled down to the idea that he is a little kid for only so long. It is a very finite amount of time that he is a little kid. Kid. He has his whole life to use whatever colorful language he wants to use, right? But the hard boundary that we have drawn now is that you never direct any of those kind of words at another person.
In like a name calling kind of way?
Yes.
In a hurtful
Okay.
way, right? And we've had conversations now where we're like, there are times where you could drop something and be like, shit. It's not directed at anybody. You know, it's not saying you're being a shit right now. You're being an asshole, you know?
Yeah, we talk about the intention of the word.
The intention of the word matters.
Yeah.
For sure. And so that's kind of where I'm starting to fall, because I to me, but it was God damn it, because I grew up in a very religious family, and that was a bad one, right? But in other families, it's like, okay. And Ryan now, he's like, oh, Jesus, you know, and we're like, hey, like pump the brakes. It doesn't mean anything to him because we are not raising him in a religious family. We're not going to church. We're not doing any of those things. But I also know that if he is around other people, or he's having conversations with friends or in friends' households, that could be offensive to them.
Yeah.
Do you guide him to like shorten that to G's? Like, do you give him an alternative?
I don't give him that alternative, but I do say you can say other things.
Okay.
You don't need to say that, right? So yes, I guess I do give him alternative ideas, but I haven't thought to use G's, right? Because it's just so close to it. But it's just this idea, right? Like I am still figuring out what are the parameters and why, because I do want to give him rationale of why are we asking you to not say these words.
And I think that's super important because I grew up with my parents swore all the time, right?
Okay.
But if you swore, you're not allowed to swear. But like, why are you
good
not
for me,
allowed?
not for you.
But like, why am I not allowed to swear? Because you're a child and I'm an adult. And I was very much like, well, fuck that.
Yeah, I don't like that because I said so.
Right.
Logic.
It was very much
not logical.
Yeah, it was very much like you're a child and you don't have the right to say those things, or like you can't say those things, and not explained in a way of like what it means. So we're very intentional about explaining the meaning of every word when it comes out. Like, hey, what's this word? Okay, this is what we did. We just had a whole conversation yesterday. Evan in the car was like, Mom, someone said the B word.
Which B word?
And I was like, what's the B word? And he's like, well, I'm not allowed to say it. And I was like, you're most certainly allowed to tell me what word you're talking about. And he told me it was the word bitch. And I said, do you know what that means? And I like literally did the whole Webster definition of what the word means. And I said, do you know why people use it? And we explained out like why people say it and who it's directed to and the hurtfulness of it. And like, words have power when you give them power, in my opinion. I am very much like, the word is only as powerful as you let it be for yourself, which is very different for other people, right? My husband and I jokingly cuss at each other a lot. And I think the first time somebody heard him call me a bitch, I think they almost like fell over. And they're like, why would you let him call you that? And I'm like, it's not anything, like he's not saying it in an intentionally like mean way. It's just it's just a word.
But then you have to clarify that with your kids who are growing up hearing it.
Well, yeah, he does not say that at me. My husband and I are house divided in terms of,
interesting.
In terms of our
say more.
In terms of our cuss word belief. He grew up without his parents ever cussing. He still to this day does not say cuss words in front of his parents.
Yeah.
I don't know that I realized this around him, and I am instantly recalculating my language choice.
He is not upset about you losing the language, but
like around the kids?
I will say, like, him and I have had lots of conversations about language in front of the kids. And I also am aware other people do not like it. So I do my best to refrain from it.
With your own kids or with other kids?
With other kids.
Okay. You use any language in front of your kids, or do you have a certain threshold where you abstain?
I mean, no, I'm not very good at like
I use any language in front of my kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't filter it.
And sometimes Cole will say to me, Mom, language. Because he hears Steve correct me and say, Nichole, language.
I mean, that's not a horrible thing either, because
horrible
he's testing his own tolerance and his own
right.
understanding.
And I'm like, oh, sorry. Let me rephrase that. Right.
Yeah.
So if they mention it to me, I will do my best. But I'm not like intentionally doing it. It's just
Yeah.
in my brain.
Well, so Ashley, so you said you do not have a filter for any of the words, right? You use
Correct.
any words. Do your kids also use any words? Is that acceptable?
They have started to. So it's something that Bob and I decided, like, very early on. We weren't going to like filter ourselves in that way. We're going to speak freely.
Okay.
Like you were saying, we don't like
Are
direct
you big
it.
potty mouths? I think that's also an interesting thought, like, or just perspective is like, do you use a curse word once every like 5 days, or is it like 5 times every hour? Like,
Yeah, it's probably more of that. Like,
Okay.
I definitely lean more into the colorful language, like,
Okay.
for sure. Bob does too. But our decision early on was they're just words.
Mhm.
They have meaning that you give them meaning. But if they say a word like grammatically correct, all
In the
right.
correct context.
Like,
so there's thresholds for you guys of where it's appropriate and where it's not appropriate.
correct.
Okay.
The other area that we choose not to censor is music. So we don't listen to edited music in our house at all.
We don't either.
It's art. That's how we've presented it. It's art, it's language, it's expression. Say what you will. And sometimes if that's the colorful language that you need to express yourself, like that has a time and place. But like you guys are saying, depends on the audience, depends on the context. So we're trying to learn that. There are a couple exceptions to that. When we're singing along to songs, like we listen to a lot of hip hop, 0 N-word. Absolutely 0. 0 tolerance for that. So like even if I'm singing along to something, you will not hear that word come out of my mouth. I don't want to hear it out of them. I might smack someone upside the head if they say it. Like, very, very firm about that. We also don't like the word cunt. I know a lot of people don't like it, but that's just not.
I don't like that word either.
Yeah, and I can't really like articulate why, but that's just like
Had such a negative misogynistic connotation to it for so long.
Yeah.
That one's ingrained
yeah.
as
So
only derogatory.
yep. So those are limits
for me.
Same
Yeah.
for me. I don't prefer that.
Yeah, those are limits, and then the directing at people. But I mean, for us, we present it as its language. If you use it correctly in the right context, if you're old enough to understand the meaning, that's your business to express yourself that way.
How about directed at you? Is that permissible?
It hasn't happened yet.
Okay. How would you feel if your kid said, "You're being a bitch"?
It would probably stop me in my tracks if I'm being honest. But I would then question, why are they using such strong language in this moment? What are they expressing that they don't have other language to express?
Okay.
And it'd probably open up a conversation that way. And it would, like I said, get my attention. And that's probably what they would mean to do. They're probably being provocative on purpose at that point. So thanks for getting my attention. Like, let's talk about it.
I 100% agree on that. We've had many a conversation about curse words and exactly that. Like, often for young children in particular, you know, you have to remember I was a teacher. Like, when I see young children do cursing, it's often they're repeating what they've heard, like parroting, and they don't really understand the meaning, or they're experiencing such intense emotion and they do not have the vocabulary to describe it. So it is indicative of them having not enough words, right? And I think that's really wise. My experience is definitely closer to Tania's. My parents did not curse. I don't remember hearing curse words except for maybe in German. And I knew it was a bad word, but like I wasn't entirely sure. I don't know any German except for the bad words. But with my kids, I wanted something different. I don't want them to curse. I do find it offensive in most situations. But I also don't want them to be afraid of it. or not talk to me about it. That's really important to me. So I was telling Tania, I think we started in the summer just with Cruz, the 9-year-old, but I think he was like 6 or 7 when we started making a tradition to be like, okay, buddy, it's just us. It's actually when I was dropping him off at camp. What is the worst curse word you know? He was like, I can't tell you. I was like, no, you can tell me. And you
won't get in trouble.
You won't get in trouble. You can tell me.
Yeah.
And it was actually a really sweet, endearing moment just between him and me. Where
what was the word?
The first year, I think it was shit.
Okay.
And then the second year, he added bitch and a couple others. But when it got to fuck, he was like, there's one more. I was like, okay. He was like, it begins with an F. I was like, okay. He was like, I don't think I can say it. I was like, you can. Like, we're going to talk about it. It's going to be fine. It's just me. And he was like, how about if I spell it? So he spelled it to me. But we had the coolest conversation over a DoorDash dinner at a hotel on grammar. Like, here's how it's used as a noun. Here's how it's an adjective.
But that word in particular is so
fun
many
for
uses.
me. I always wanted to do that as a language teacher, but I agree.
Also not appropriate to do in a school.
So it was my moment. I waited a long time for that. So I agree that language holds meaning. I agree that there are cultural elements to it. And with my friends, or when I'm really frustrated, it will come out. But I think particularly in public or around young children, like, there are so many people in the world where we live that it's offensive, that it's like not worth it for me. And it's not about making them more comfortable. It's about me being comfortable.
I think that there will undoubtedly be a perception placed upon you by other people. And, you may not care what other people think of you, and that's okay. I do care how people perceive my child, possibly more than I care about how people perceive me. And for a 9 or a 10-year-old to be using those words freely out in public, I don't want that perception placed upon him.
Agree. Right?
You
They're not
know?
using it out freely in public.
And also, I feel like kids
Time
at
and
that
place.
age probably do not have the proper restraint. Arguably, lots of adults also don't have the proper restraint, right? But I don't think they know exactly when to use those words in public or not.
I disagree with that. Because
It depends on the kid.
Yeah.
It depends on the kid.
But I also think it has a lot to do with what you're teaching them, right? If you are teaching them when it's proper to use it versus when it's not, they're going to have a better understanding of it versus if you say oh, you're just not allowed to say that.
I
and
hear
they're
you.
going to slip up too.
Yeah.
So
Or
you
they
embrace when
sometimes don't
slip
make
up.
the best choices. And I can
Right.
give myself as an example. I knew some bad words. I had an older brother. I'd never used them in front of my parents. I never used them in public. I don't like cursing. But I learned a really fun word that I thought sounded cool. Dildo. And I knew it was bad, but I don't think I knew. I knew it was sexual. I knew it was bad, but I don't even think I knew what it was. There was a bad girl. Just wait. There's not a bad girl. Sorry. Rewind. A new girl in school who was saying this word. It's a long story. I'll skip that part. But I was hanging out with my cousin, and I was like, "You're being such a dildo." So that's breaking rule number 1. Don't call
Directed
at someone. Which
I don't
is
know.
still a
That
rule we
one,
have in our house.
that one's silly.
I just meant it as a silly, haha. And we were laughing. I knew it was bad. I knew the settings where I should and shouldn't say it. And I was saying it with my cousin when we were playing alone for funsies. Mm-hmm. Guess what happened later that night at dinner when she got mad at her dad? She called him a dildo.
Oh my
and he was
God,
like,
I would have loved
"Where
to see
did
that.
you learn that word?" And she's like, "Jenny taught me."
But thinking back to it, if you had a parent you could go to and say, "Hey, I heard this word, dildo. What does it mean?" And they gave
that's
you
what
the
she's
information.
doing. We're breaking the cycle.
I'm not saying you're not.
Yes.
But if
That's exactly right. I didn't know.
Right. But if you had more of that and it was more freely available to understand, then do you think you could have been used it responsibly?
Could I have? Would I have been capable?
or would
yes.
you?
Would I have made a different choice? I don't know.
Yeah.
Our frontal lobes were not fully developed.
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting that you're grouping dildo in with fuck.
It's
Agreed.
sexual,
Right. But to me,
which again is a more
But
adult concept.
yes.
You
Well,
don't
and
necessarily
you talked about
want-
the N word. I put that in there too. There's so many other discriminatory words and phrases that are offensive. And to
Yes,
me,
that's true. There's a
curse
couple.
words are offensive. And
I see.
And so, yeah, I would put that in more of an adult language.
Interesting.
But you made the comment earlier about music. That was the gateway for us into these conversations a couple years ago, was exactly that. I was like, okay, we're going to listen. It was Taylor Swift. Imagine that.
Taylor Swift.
And no, you're right. It might've been Hamilton or Taylor Swift or both, but it was like, I didn't want to listen to the clean version. It was playing. He was going to hear it. And so we've had conversations about like, hey, you know, especially, is it Down Bad that has like so many curse words? And I was like,
Down Bad, fucking if I can't.
it's like over and over and over again. And so before I played it, I was like, okay, buddy, like I'll play it, but it has like curse words over and over and again. And we had to rehash in the car, like, hey, you know this, you know how we feel about it. Like, don't repeat it, but I think you're old enough, you can handle it. And so we did, and we're cool. Like, it's not a problem for us now.
It's so interesting because I'm not over here saying tons of bad words, but shit is my go-to. Like, it is a word I say frequently, but like in a like shit, like I forgot something or dropped something or whatever in a like that way. I've actually never heard my kids ever say the bad words.
Playing video games, I still hear him slip. And I'm like, what'd you say? He's like, I said shoot. And I'm like,
I think the worst that I've heard Cruz say in like that kind of moment is, what the? He doesn't even finish it and it still offends me.
Oh, wow.
What the what?
it's the intention.
It's the intention behind it.
You know the intention that he has.
But even when
behind
he's
it.
To be clear, he doesn't get in trouble, but I still don't
right.
like it.
But even
That's
when
fine.
it's not in like towards anybody.
Yeah, so we have similar guidelines
Yeah.
of Tanya. Like I want him we talk about words, we talk about their meaning, we talk about how they're used. We never ever use them at school or church.
Yep.
We never ever use them at a friend's house. Like when you're over a guest somewhere, including their grandparents, their cousins. So yes, we talk about that often. I think where my kids hear the most cursing is probably summer camp and music.
Yeah, so the music piece has become an issue for us now because for a long time we would censor the music that we would listen to with him. And now we are getting to a point like we like punk rock and we like, music that includes adult words. And he likes that kind of music now. And I'm like, rock on, dude, right? And so we have started to have those conversations of like, buddy, I know that you really like this song, or I think you will really like this song or this band or this artist. And there are adult words that you're going to hear in here. And so we just need you to know these parameters that we have now set out, very similar to what Jenny has outlined. And it's still, we will be listening. Like tonight, we were just listening to music while we were playing a game. And I think they said asshole or whatever. And he all of a sudden, like looking around.
He's such a rule follower too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like,
That is not the face
in.
my kids make.
Okay.
It's interesting because I don't think any of us have different rules for our kids. I think we are all very similar in like the way we approach it. I just think it's different about where they hear it from.
Yeah. So I think where he
Interesting.
first started hearing it, honestly, was our big neighborhood group of families. As the kids have grown older, like we hang out, the kids go play, the adults hang out, we have beverages, we play games, we get heated.
Yeah.
Adult language comes out.
Adult language
in, the
in
games.
adult context.
As it does
the
at Friendsgiving over
Yeah.
spoons.
I'm sure spoons brought it out in all of us. And so I think that was honestly the first introduction to where he started hearing some of those words. And there was honestly, I had to like have a sit down conversation with one of our neighbors probably 5 years ago where I was like, dude, tone it down because I do not want that level of cursing in front of my kid. You're at my house. No, thank you. Right?
Yeah.
And to me, it was this respect, this
Yes.
level of respect that I expected at my house that like, that's not okay.
Agree. I say this, like, I would react the same way at you. Like, I try not to cuss at your house and your house with your kids around. I do my best to, like, hold it back as
Me too, girl.
best as I can.
At my own house.
Yeah.
Me too, girl.
As best as I can. Sometimes it slips, but, like,
Yeah.
I don't think our approaches are actually any different.
Right.
It is just that you personally do not feel comfortable saying those words around your children.
Yeah. And it's ebbed and flowed. Obviously, I married a Marine.
Well,
So, like-
but Latin culture is very different in language.
It certainly depends on the culture. Like there are very many countries and very many Latin cultures. But yes, my husband's family curses more frequently. Not my mother-in-law, but the brothers in both languages. And some countries that speak Spanish, the words that hold meaning here, like shit, it's the same word in Spanish, but there it doesn't hold the same meaning. There are other words there that mean they're like innocent here that hold a significant amount of offensive meaning. And that's why I mean, like, there is a bit of culture there to be
Where
aware
like the
of.
tone matters and stuff.
It's the tone, or I can't think of a good example, but it could
I
be.
can give an example in Farsi.
Sure.
As a curse word, literally translated would be "go suffocate," but that's like
Right, it
saying,
doesn't
like,
sound-
"fuck
it's-
you," like
Yeah.
the equivalent. But literally translate it.
The equivalent was.
Oh, choke on a dick? No, it's not that endearing. Not at all. It's much meaner than that.
But right, if you don't know like the language and the culture, you might not know that. Like in Shakespeare time, it was "I bite my thumb at you." Like now we'd be like, "What are you talking about?
Well,
What's
all
wrong
I
with
can
your
think
thumb?"
about
you
is
know?
the Friends. Was it Friends episode where they did? The,
Oh, I need that. I still do that in the gym sometimes to the trainers.
To each other now.
That's so
Right,
funny.
but it's a sign that they gave meaning to that like is gibberish, right? But that is language, that is communication.
I hear you, and I think it's important to understand like who's giving that power.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing this, like.
It's just different gestures that different groups are
Or
familiar
like
with.
this, right? Isn't that like a bad
Yeah,
one?
yeah. She's
Oh
like,
yeah,
when
like,
you,
flicking your chin. Yeah,
But, like,
or
what-
like the this one
But
or
like
whatever.
that's
it is,
interesting.
like an
So you
arm.
do the double hands, no middle
To my
fingers
brother
out.
all the time,
But it's because of the origin.
sometimes
of
to
it.
my
It's like
husband, and
funny,
often at the
innocent
gym.
kind
But
of-
you
Yeah.
will never flip somebody off.
I almost did today.
But in general, it is not
So you
something
thought about it.
you would do.
No, I like honestly, I feel like if I'm angry enough that I want to express this, I have better and more stronger and more.
Yeah.
I think that there are more thoughtful ways to communicate your intention
For
or
sure.
your thoughts than using the colorful language, right? And so that's part of also the conversation I've had with Ryan is like, there's lots of ways to communicate what you want to get across, right? Like you don't have to use these words in order to get my attention or to communicate what you need necessarily. And it's hard though, because I know we're entering this gray zone. And since he entered fourth grade, the fourth grades and fifth graders share a bathroom trailer.
God.
And once he
That's totally
they are,
natural.
and similar to Jenny, right? Like we have instituted this whole like every so often I'm like, hey dude, hit me with your best one. I just want to know. Like I just want to see where you're at. And we have an open door policy. Any word you hear that you want to know what that is, you come to me and you ask me and I will tell you honestly and you will never get in trouble for it.
Yep.
Ever.
Yep.
Had a
Right?
lot
Is
of
that the way
conversations
you were
that way.
raised, though?
No.
Yeah. Like, I think that's also a different power our generation is doing in terms of saying, like, we're not going to give language as much power. We're going to dissect it down and, like, break it down.
Secrecy gives it power.
Right. The
Yeah.
secrecy, the, like, the part of, like,
I feel like
only
you're getting away with something.
right, only adults can
Yeah.
use it, right? It, like,
Yeah.
feels like it's, like, this something you need and you're going to eventually get, or this rite of passage, or this, like, moment into adulthood, right? Where it's not. It's just a word, and, like, if you stub your toe and say shit, like, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm be like, yeah, I bet that fucking hurt.
Right?
Like,
Right? It probably did.
I bet that hurt.
Yeah. I feel like I don't mean to bring everything back to either Taylor Swift or Harry Potter, but like when
always.
we were reading Harry Potter, you know, there's the people that are born of wizard blood, and then there are people that are born from like non-magic. Muggle is the appropriate term, but if you hear a character, especially the Malfoys, they say mudblood, and that is like the equivalent of the N word, like a very derogatory. And Cruz was about 6 when we had that conversation. He was like, "What's the problem?" You know, and it was a really helpful conversation. So I feel like for me, those are the places where I'm like the most concerned, and like personally offended.
Yeah.
So getting back to the idea of like perception, right? How people perceive you, right? So we've been talking about our kids and the idea of our kids using these words, but even like as adults, I do feel like there are certain scenarios where it's appropriate for me to use certain language, and then there are other scenarios where it's not, right? So like work is one avenue. If I were meeting with a client, I would not be cursing unless I have
1,000%.
unless I have an intimate relationship, not intimate, sorry, a long-standing established
Rapport.
relationship and rapport with a client or, you know, whoever it might be, where that's just acceptable and it's understood that that is okay.
I
Right?
1,000% agree. And even then, they got to say it first.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the one to say
Okay.
it first in that kind of context.
I also agree. I wouldn't curse in front of a client, right? Not because like I'd be afraid of how they perceived me. It's just not, those words wouldn't like necessarily come up in natural conversation.
But they are natural conversation for you here. They're not natural
They're
conversation
only in
for
context.
you.
Like I don't
If you
go
stubbed your
around-
toe in front of a client, you wouldn't say shit,
I might.
I would
yeah.
but you would censor yourself in that same context.
Correct.
I actually maybe wouldn't. Like, let's be real. I probably would say shit if I stubbed my toe in front of a client. Like,
Okay.
like that's a natural like hurt action.
Yeah.
Like, but in general, like I wouldn't just say curse words. I don't just say curse words like randomly throw out. I just don't go out there and throw fuck bombs around. Like it is
Yeah.
in a conversation.
And I think that's true and fair, and I appreciate that. I think for me it is my kids, because like anytime they hear a new curse word, it opens up a new conversation. It's like a whole work stream I have to manage. Like, I don't like it around my kids at all. I don't like it on TV. I tolerate it in good music, but like that's where I really don't like it, especially in public settings, like at the pool with teenagers nearby. Like I will say something if it's loud and noxious and like every other word around my
noticing that
5-year-old.
just,
Oh,
like last
interesting.
night or 2 nights ago at swim practice, and there were like preteens in the pool that were just left and right curse words, and I was like, this is not appropriate at the public pool
Yeah.
with all these millions of other kids around. Like,
But that's
Next time,
different.
just say,
That's
"What's a sigma?"
different.
and make them shut up.
But that's different than I could see Luna doing this, like a little one at pool coming out and like stubbing her toe and saying shit. Like that is different. The intent is different. The impact is
no,
different.
this was
for
repeated.
shock value.
Yes.
They were doing it because they knew they were offensive and they thought that is to see
And/or
what happens.
in their household, it is just completely open policy, and they have zero value associated with those words. That is a possibility.
It is a possibility. However, I will say, like, just to like close this out, like when it's just me with you guys or at a bar or adults, like it doesn't offend me as much. The derogatory, discriminatory, like ones do.
That's
the religious ones do. And normally I have to remind myself, like they don't know, they don't even think of that meaning. But like in any religion, not even Christianity, but like the actual curse words don't. Like I don't mind cunt. I don't mean bitch, fuck, shit. Like,
Say them all.
damn.
Say
I'm
'em
trying.
all.
There's
Fuck
even a
is my
song. Do
favorite.
you guys know the song?
No.
What?
We gotta sit. We need to hear the song.
I mean, this is I can't sing, so it's gonna be painful. So
No, we gotta
Tania,
hear it.
I don't know it.
it's shit, damn. Hold on. Shit, damn, fuck a damn. Some motherfucker just stole my man, but I'll find another fucker better than the other fucker. Shit, damn, fuck a damn.
I've never.
That's like a tongue twister.
Yeah, it's like a tongue twister.
Wow.
It's interesting.
That is going to be the best short on
I
TikTok
know.
that we're going to have.
I'm gonna have to like make that one special. It's really interesting that you find the like words more offensive. I find it more offensive when people are trying to talk to my children about religion than I do.
Oh,
if
100%
anybody
agree.
ever said fuck to my kid.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
And even like
That is truly for a
little-
parent.
Little children who learn about it and then are telling my children about it.
So by that same token, it's this idea that an ideology, verbiage is
it's
being
similar.
pushed upon your kids.
With
We
different value
are
and
sort
meaning.
of relating to that same concept
Agree, yeah.
Yes.
of if you
I hear you. My problem is like it's the how much but like society is not saying that that's not bad.
You can devalue religion.
Right?
I'm just saying like devalue curse words.
It is publicly
if you want to use that argument.
It is publicly acceptable to talk about religion in public.
I would say that is not true everywhere. That is true in the Bible Belt with so many Baptist families. Like here, I have not lived in North Carolina my whole life. That is absolutely not my experience or would not be acceptable in Pennsylvania or Connecticut.
But here in North Carolina, it
especially
is
where you live.
Offensive. It is not.
On the road.
Oh, the thank you, Jesus signs.
Widely acceptable.
But in the same token, the word shit is not widely acceptable.
Agreed.
And I think it is far less offensive, the word shit, than it is to have Jesus things all over the place.
Yeah.
Those are some strong words.
And
you didn't even need a curse word to express that.
And I don't say I need a curse word to express it, but I want the ability to say it if I want to.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm curious, do you guys also limit adult concepts as well as these adult words?
Can you give examples?
Yes.
So back in like music, right? If there are, just comes to mind, talk about
Duty
So,
here?
Let me just to pause. Like probably, but not by intent.
Okay,
just
let's
by like
try
they're
again.
not exposed. to it.
dildo. If there is, like, I know we've done like sex toy parties,
Yeah.
no kids allowed, but like, would you censor those words because it's not a curse word,
Yes.
but you would choose not to say those things?
Because I don't want to have that conversation with my child yet. However,
okay.
if they hear it or they saw it or they overheard it, I absolutely would.
Okay.
And I have.
You would explain.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in a song, someone says tripping on the powder, and
Yeah, I
would
don't think
explain
we
what that
listen to the
means.
same song.
No, we don't. But that's what I'm getting at. Like these things come up in the genre
Taylor
of music
does
that
not
I
say
listen
tripping
to.
on the powder.
She does
does say a lot, and that's okay. Like
Right.
no. Yeah,
Okay.
I think the answer is like I don't seek it out. To kind of Tanya's earlier point, like I'm okay with them being kids and being innocent for as long as they want, so long as it keeps them safe. But more important than any of that, I want them to know they can always talk to me about anything.
So long as
Good
it
or
keeps them
bad.
safe.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me because I find the exposure, in my opinion, keeps them safe too because they're not
know what to look
ignorant
out
to
for.
it.
There
Yeah.
there is absolutely a balance of
I think it changes as they grow.
of
Yeah.
overprotection, right? And then all of a sudden finding themselves in the world. Like, we are one more year in elementary school, and then he's going to middle school.
Jesus.
You need to tell
The
them
first
anything
time
they
that I
need to know
said-
before middle
It's gonna
school.
be-
Yeah. The first time I said a curse word was in 6th grade. I remember
it. Was
it.
middle school for me, for sure, too.
I mean, to be clear, you need to tell your kid anything you want to tell them, like curse words, sex talks, puberty, like all of it before middle school because they will hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I was chaperoning a field trip and like one of the kids said op and his dad was with him. His dad's like, "Do you even know what that means?" And he's like,
Ashley, what does it mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
An op, it's someone who's like up in your business. Like think like operative, someone spying on you, up in their business, being nosy,
Oh.
like
that doesn't
telling on
seem
you,
that bad to
snitching on
me.
you. No,
But,
but
it's
like
slang.
it's
You know what
slang.
Riz means? Because I would like to know what
Yes.
that means.
Riz, it comes from charisma.
Charisma.
Riz.
I didn't know the
Yeah.
kids were writing it on their backs and Sharpies at swim team. And I was like from
If they
Greece?
Riz,
Isn't
if
that a
they're like
character?
Riz, they're
Yeah,
like-
charisma. I'm gonna go Riz on her
Yeah, they
and
have
like
good-
gonna go.
yeah, like-
okay,
charm
that
her,
makes
flirt
I
with
like
her.
that now. But like I assumed it was good or they wouldn't
In the
have it on their
90s,
back.
call
I
it,
thought
like,
it was the
macking on
character
someone.
in Greece,
Mac,
wasn't
yeah,
it?
macking.
Rizzo? I thought it was Rizzo.
Yeah.
That's actually
Show-
not terrible.
Show
though.
your age there.
But there are, as I'm sitting here thinking, Ashley, like we don't hear those kinds of songs. We don't
Okay.
watch those kinds of shows normally.
Okay.
But there are moments where I am proactively sharing.
Are there
something.
not kids in school that would be exposed to that stuff? And
There are
bring it to
certainly kids
school?
exposed everywhere.
They go to a Catholic
It's
school.
actually the opposite for me, which might surprise. Hey now.
No. I
It
am
might
saying
surprise you. I would like
you
to get my
shouldn't make
point out.
judgments on the fact that they are in a Catholic school because all kinds of things happen in all kinds of schools.
Agreed.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is that the areas in which I have been proactive with Cruz are because of the environment he's in, where I have been very explicit with him. For example, like I completely value any relationship and believe love is love and am team pride and same-sex relationships and family looks different. Those are conversations that he and I are having proactively and have been since kindergarten at various levels. Like, I'm not trying to force my beliefs on him. But when we talk about why does mommy choose to go to a different church when we go to Catholic school, we go to Catholic mass on Thursday. Why does mommy choose to go to Crosspoint? Well, I believe, and that's how I phrase it. This is what I believe. The Catholic Church right now has a different belief that makes me uncomfortable. What do you think? Like, those are the kinds of adult conversations we're having, and I'm proud that we have those. But I'm trying not to tell him what I believe, and I want him to come to his own conclusions, and we have cool conversations. And it's not only about religion, like I know that's touchy for you, but it's adult a good experience. Still. Like, why mom, do we know there's a God? How do we know there's a God? Is he real? And I'm like, I don't know. Nobody knows. This is what I choose to believe and why. Let's talk about it. So yes.
Well, and in a similar vein, like, there are lots of things that we have censored for Ryan. It's not just the language piece, right? Like, we don't watch shows or movies that have
like
violence. We don't watch cartoons that have a bunch of fake blood in them necessarily, right? And it has been a progressive thing as he has grown older. We've started watching shows where they are fighting, and they may fight with swords, and then somebody like falls down. But there's not like a spray of fake blood, right? That it does accompany some even animated shows, right? There are animated shows that are made exclusively for adults that have that kind of thing in it too.
Yes,
and
like
so
Archer I was watching last night.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think it's one of those things, like, it's not just the language
I agree.
piece, but there's this broader idea of there are just some things that it's unnecessary for you right now, but I also know we are now on the cusp of, like, he's gonna hear these things, he's gonna see these things, he's gonna find them, his friends are gonna show him. And I really would rather he see them or hear them or know about them from us.
I agree 100%.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
right. And so now I find myself like, we're gonna have to get into some uncomfortable
For you.
things
Yeah.
for
For
us. I am aware of that, and I don't want to set him up for failure, so to speak, in that way. Right?
Well, it also keeps
Information
him
is
safe,
power.
right? It also
Yeah.
keeps him safe if he knows what they're saying when they're like, "Hey, do you want to smoke some weed with me?" Right? Like, he knows
Right.
what
What,
that
the
is.
weed? Yeah.
I love talked about
But, like,
substances.
But like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
important
Oh, yeah.
to understand if he knows what those things are.
I
and
agree.
not
100% agree.
Caught off
Weapons,
guard.
all
You're
sorts
right.
of sexual
Absolutely.
things.
100%
Right.
agree. It's funny you mentioned like video games, because I think that is an area where we have maybe some more adult conversations, particularly with my oldest. I use Common Sense Media as my source of truth. It's a nonprofit that goes beyond just the rating, whether it's E for a Switch game or PG for a movie. They'll explain the rating. They'll explain like what is it, like more detailed it's for a parent. Then they have parent reviews, educator reviews, kid reviews, and it'll be like, I think this movie you have to be 14, and a kid will be like, I watched this movie and I was 6 and I was fine. You know, like, it's actually really enlightening. There's a spectrum, but you know your kid, and it's really helpful. And so Cruz and Luna know, like, this is when there's a debate in our house. Normally Beto wants to watch a movie that's like PG-13, and I don't think it's appropriate. We go to Common Sense Media
Together?
as a family, like, pull it up on the screen, and we look at what is it that's in there. Is it cigarette smoking? Okay, we're okay with that. Why? Like, we have very active conversations. We let him get his first game that wasn't rated E. It was like a Zelda game. And like, literally he's playing, like, a week later, he's like, I think I know why it's not rated E, Mom. I'm like, oh yeah, why? He's like, because we're not just killing like zombies or fake creatures. We're like killing like animated real humans. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And it's like archery and knives, but like not bloody, but like,
and then they go,
he's aware, and we're having these conversations.
And can we talk about how they sound like they're having an orgasm every time they speak in that game?
in that
In
game.
Zelda?
In Zelda,
Yes.
every girl,
It sounds very
every single time I'm over here,
We
like,
haven't had that conversation.
I'm like, that's not even, like, that's worse than shit in my opinion. Over there, you're listening to like the.
It's
but isn't that so
problematic.
interesting, Nichole, that like the thing that you find offensive or awkward the most are the things that are more sexual?
Yes, of
where
course.
I don't. You know, so
Right.
everybody
And I'm
has
always
that
like-
line for you.
But I don't like censor. I don't say anything about it. All I look at Steven and go, and I'm like, are they orgasming on that screen? Like,
Did
what
she
is
finish?
happening here?
Yeah.
It's because it's very much like that. On the game.
It's problematic to me. It is probably the biggest drawback of that game.
Cruz has headphones, so no, I never knew.
Just so you know, when you listen to it, it's like that. But it's interesting because, like, I think the '90s Disney movies are worse than any of the other movies.
They are.
For
There's
sure.
a lot.
Lion King is scarring. Like in the first
Yeah,
one,
your kids were reenacting that for a while.
for a
after they
long
saw it.
time.
emotionally
Processing it.
scarring.
Yeah.
But not.
So you'll
in
like
terms of,
Common Sense Media. You can go in there and put even the Disney movies. They'll have all those warnings.
I don't know. If you follow Common Sense Media recommendations
do.
like to the T, you're never going to watch a movie ever again in the history of the world because every movie.
But I don't know if it's about
G-rated
following
movies.
that.
They're like there's violence,
But
there's
exactly.
patricide. There's
It's
all these things.
it's
And I'm like,
not
it's not
it's not
following.
about a green light, red light.
It's
It's
informed
about
consent.
let's have a conversation about
Yes.
what we're about to see and talk about it before you see it. And you're a young, impressionable child trying to make sense of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like fodder to have a conversation than, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah. Then
And I
we
think-
looked, we looked up the Goonies.
It's
in
real
Common
bad.
Sense Media, real bad.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn it, we really wanted to watch that.
But hasn't it? I mean, maybe it's just me because I'm the uptight one here. But hasn't it happened where you're like, "Oh, I loved that movie when I was a kid. Let's watch it." And you're with your kids, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't remember any of that."
No, I knew. I was very self-aware that all the movies we grew up watching, or many of them, right? Like,
Yeah. For Beto, it was Home Alone.
80s
He was
and
watching it
90s,
with
man.
Luna one day, and I came and talk about why. Because if you don't, Luna's going to go to her preschool teacher and be like, "Guess what word I heard yesterday?"
That's so interesting because my kids do not like have that inclination. Like they don't want to go share the words they learn or know or whatever.
Do you know that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've never listen, I get called from the teachers at Evan's school like once a week and it has never once been for language, okay? Never once. Lots of other things, but it is not we do not have a language problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows the words. We have lots of conversations about the words. He just doesn't that's not like in his
Well, I do think that's an important point.
Yeah.
I think that every kid is going to be
Right.
different and every family is going to be play out and your own kids.
if I say bad words in front of your kids, just pinch me.
I-
Oh yeah, she doesn't like being touched. That's
Yeah.
a great one.
It'll
Great
help,
negative
like,
reinforcement.
negative reinforcement.
That feels fair.
just caress her.
stretch
And
your
that,
arm.
Yeah, I think you'll like the pinch better. I think I'm
I
going to
might
do
like
a
the
slow,
pinch better.
tickly touch because you hate that.
touch the side of her face. She really likes
Yeah.
that.
But I do my best to try not to.
I know you do. And
I'm not
I mean, me
100%.
too.
I don't score 100%.
I'm not 100%.
I am more stringent about it, and I might have the bigger potty mouth of the two of us, at least, right? So like, it's okay.
It's
and
just
it
interesting
happens.
because like
Yeah.
my husband is so we
But
don't
like, I
say
had a
curse
very
words.
different level when my son was 5 versus where he's
Right.
at now. But you guys all have 5-year-olds, right?
Yes,
So
and I have a
find
5-year-old who's a
myself now,
parrot.
like, okay, right? Like okay.
Yes.
And we're still not actively cursing in front of our kid, with abandon or without abandon, but it is happening now in the music that we watch or in the movies that we watch. And we've tried to talk to him, like finding movies that we want to actually watch together as a family is getting harder. Like,
Yeah.
for the ones that don't have adult language in them at least, or some of the
Adult
adult
concepts.
concepts, crude jokes, that kind of thing. And so I'm like, buddy, we're going to start to be seeing things that might raise questions for you. And it's just this open policy, open door policy of let's talk about it, please. Because I want to be the person who can at least help you understand what they are.
Agreed.
Yeah. I don't know. This is fun. I like it.
This is
And
fucking fun.
Why is it that
time.
I'm the one who cursed the most today?
I love it. I
You
love
were
it.
singing us a song. You were serenading.
I
us.
remember singing that over and over and over in my head on the bus at like 10.
Okay, I
Wow.
think
I will say with Ryan, you said cruise, he said the F word, right? Ryan also, I think when we first played that game, he said the F word. And I was like, what's the F word, honey? And he's like, I can't say it. I was like, no, you can say it. Freak. And I was like,
Aw.
Okay, because it was at
Was
an
he
age.
censoring
It
himself?
was a few years ago.
No, he
I
didn't
think
know what
was
it
a few
was.
years
He
ago.
thought it was.
Okay.
It was a few years ago, and for him, a lot of derogatory words, but ability level also has a lot of
Ooh.
derogatory words.
You just made
that
me
are
think of my least
hard
favorite word.
Ours is
stops.
stupid. It's not allowed to be said in this
hard
house.
stops for me versus the colorful
Yes.
language.
What's
right?
yours?
The most offensive word to me
Yeah.
that anyone could ever say.
Other
Yeah,
than the
I need
N
to
word and
know.
other than that F word
Yeah.
with 6 letters,
Yeah.
are you thinking of that one that starts with an R?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Retarded.
Oh.
I
My kids
really,
don't
really
even know
bothers
that
me.
word, I don't think. Like, and it hasn't ever come up in a way.
I'm sure kids have said it around them.
Yeah.
I actually don't think so. They would have, like, Evan is very much a, like, let me tell you kind of kid. He's going to tell you everything he has heard.
And
that
you
he
don't
should've.
think he's doing that with his teachers and friends? You're wrong.
His
It goes
teacher,
both ways.
His teacher, we are very, very close with
Yes.
his teacher. So, like, we talk weekly. Like, she calls us, we just chat for a long time. Like, if he was saying any of those things, we would know. Like, there's a lot that happens, and we know about it, and that's not one
Now
of them.
Cole, on the other hand,
Cole, I mean, I don't know. He's also, like, doesn't like to get in trouble. And if he thinks he's going to be in trouble for anything,
honey, he could still be talking to his friends on the playground. Just
Guarantee
around a
he's
teacher.
talking
He
shit
could be
on the
sneaky as
playground.
Shit about it.
yeah,
That
I
doesn't mean he is. I just, I think
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, we all like to think
I
that
think
our kids
from
are like
what
the
I
most
know-
innocent things.
I don't
ever,
think that at
but,
all.
like,
I don't think my
might
kids are
assume the
innocent.
worst.
yeah, I don't think my kids are innocent whatsoever, but I think they tell me. Like, they want to tell me these things. Like, they would bring it to us because they know, like,
I hope that continues.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But it's because we try to keep making it a safe space for them
Yes.
to tell these things to us and not be in trouble and have, like, no consequences for it. And you have to actually live up to that no consequences.
yes. And it's
Part.
hard, but I think it's so important.
Yeah.
That's what we're really, really
I
trying
think
to
this
do.
is one of the first like levels of laying that foundation of trust with our kiddo to
Yeah.
not feel like he has to hide
Yeah.
or be ashamed or, be subversive about what he's doing, because I see it happening already, right? And he'll be like, no, I didn't say that. I'm like, I clearly heard you say it. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to lie about that. It's fine, right? But, like, let's talk about it too. And it's just the beginning. It's just the tip of the iceberg of the things that our kids are going to have to navigate and tackle and what they feel comfortable talking to us about or not talking to us about.
Yeah.
So,
Well, follow us on ShePack Unleashed. On this episode, I want you guys to tag and tell us if you curse or don't curse in front of your kids.
I'm
I want to
so
like
curious,
know,
yeah.
is this like, we're kind of a house divided here. So I
Yeah.
want to know if this is like the true population. It's like, is it a 50-50 split?
Yeah, it'd be
For
interesting
sure.
to know.
thanks for hanging out with us and enjoying all the curse words this episode.
Thank you for being a part of our fucking pack.
I love that. Can you do it? Can you sign us out?
This is your 4 head bitches in charge. Ashley, Jenny, Nichole, and Tania. Stay wild and fucking fierce.
Yeah.
Wild and fucking fierce.
Sure.
I love it.
Good job.
Because of your face you're making.
Because of how red you are all of a sudden.
Because I can't wait.
Oh, I think I need to scoot more in.
I can't do it when you're looking at me.
I'm going to stare at you.
Okay, I won't look.